This is take two. Had the other one finished, and I pushed the wrong button, and I think well, not think, I lost it. Anyway, here we are again to begin on Module 4, which has to do with culture. And this is actually the beginning of our studies. Those other three were introductory. We got all the information we needed out of the syllabus. We learned about the observation process, and then we got to meet each other. So now we're ready to work as a class moving towards diversity and be more knowledgeable there. The objectives for this particular module include identifying characteristics, practices, beliefs, and history of diverse cultural groups. And you're going to be looking at those different groups when you do the projects that we're going to look at and to take part in and to do. And characteristics, what are we talking about? Practices, beliefs that they have, and the history of these people. Describe how culture can exert influence upon the educational system. And we're going to do that too as we think about the needs of these children in their schools from the different cultures and in our schools. And we're going to think about it as you go out and do your observations too, where you can see how some of the diverse populations are assimilated or maybe not assimilated. Noticing the diversity in culture that is around us and our reaction to these diverse populations. We see them all over. And how do we react to them? Examining our values and beliefs about other cultures to assess our levels of bias. We think that we're not, cultures don't matter to us. We are very accepting, and we usually are. I think we're more accepting nowadays than we have ever been. But some of us still have deep down in us have some biases, and this whole course is going to get us to look at some of that too. As you go through, we're going to talk a little bit about the cultural project. That is a big thing that's new. I did it last semester too, so it's not quite that new. But I have the outline in there and the guidelines of how we're going to do it, and I'll talk about that as we move forward. So the assignments for the module. We have our opening prior knowledge, and if you haven't done it, you might just want to shut me down for just a couple minutes and go do it, because I would like you to define culture and to look at the differences in culture and come up with your own idea. What does culture mean, and how do we get it, and where does it come from? And the date for completion is on your guide there. Printing out that assignment checklist is probably a good idea, because it has all the assignments there and you can check them off as you go along, and you also see the dates they're due. I will get the dates on the calendar, but they're not there as yet. The second assignment is to introduce your cultural background. Now this time you're going to talk about your culture, things in your life that have affected you. My model is there, and I would suggest you read my model first and then write your own and see how you can reflect about your culture. Assignment 4, there are 3 videos that are embedded into the lesson, and I want you to watch them. They have to do with the demographics of culture and how it's changing and how it's been changing over the last, say, 50 years or so, and how it's going to change for the future as well. Assignment 4 is the movie discussion. There is a very long list of movies that have to do with something with a culture. I just added 12 Years as a Slave as one of the movies that you could observe. And that, at this time, is a fairly recent movie. But they're from all different areas or all different cultures. And I want you to look at them from a different perspective, because what you want to do is learn about the culture from the movie. And the story is probably incidental when you go through. I've had students tell me I never watch a movie the same way, because I'm always looking about cultural things in there now. There will be a list of these movies, as I mentioned. You will choose 3 topics or three movies, and you'll submit those movies to me, and I will give you your top choice or your first choice that I can give you. And then I will put their name next to that movie, and then it will become ineligible for anybody else to choose. It's taken and nobody else can choose it. So constantly check that list. Make sure you check the list before you send in anything. Early on, and there's a lot of movies there, so that you shouldn't have any problems with that. It works pretty well if you pick and choose the movie and get it into me. You usually get one of your choices as we move on. Um, you'll see when you look at the list that, remembering the Titans has my name next to it. That's what it's going to look like when you finally get to see the list. Case studies is a new part for us to do. We'll be using the textbook for the first time, and I believe it's chapter 3 that we're going to look at, and it's 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are the different cases. You'll read the case, and then you'll answer the questions at the end, and you'll post them, and then you'll read what everybody else wrote as well, what at least two people wrote as well. The culture project is going to be a little bit similar to the way we did the movies. There's going to be a list of countries, and I've grouped them, but as soon as you make a choice, then your name will go next to the country that you chose. And you can pick one, but I would suggest you maybe pick 1 or 2 or 3, just in case somebody got there ahead of you at this. I'd start from the bottom of the list. When the emails come in, I start at the bottom and I work my way up. And if I can't give you a choice, then I have to send back and say, try again. But you'll pick and choose that culture. And actually, I suggest that maybe you do the movie and the culture choice right away. And you get your choices in there, and then those people who wait or can sign in as early as what you do, they'll get what's left and to choose from. The culture projects, there is an example there. There is an example of a movie, too, with Remember the Titans. There's an example of the culture project, as one of the students did last year. And you can turn in this information in different ways. One of them is by doing a PowerPoint presentation on the culture. And I'm suggesting that you save it as a PDF file, because the PDF file will take a larger presentation, so you don't have to limit to 1 or 2 slides in a PowerPoint. You can do as many as what you want. And some of the time, doing a PowerPoint on some of the new ones, you can add your voice, and you can add voice-over tones where you can even talk about what you have there. You can do it as a video, YouTube video. You could do it as a newspaper. But that's all in there, and the things that I want you to include in information-wise is also in that part of the online presentation where cultural projects are mentioned. And the final assignment 7 is that you are going to do your final reflection. Now remember that I used the pre and the post as pairing them to see how much you gained from the beginning to the end and how much you learned out of this particular module. You can do an extra case study for extra credit if you like. And I've got a note there about the first set of observations being due. You've got plenty of time before they are done, but I wanted to put this in your mind. As soon as you get out there and get into the schools, the better off you're going to be. Please don't wait for that week that we have off to do those observations, because teacher's sick, you get sick, something happens. I was going to say a snow day, but I don't think you'll get snow days, but you might get cold days. I don't know how that works anymore in Florida. But something could happen, and then you can't get there, and then you don't get in and get your observations done, and you get behind. And then they also are getting closer to FCAT, and they're going to be stressing FCAT skills, and you won't get to see that much normal teaching going on. This has been much shorter than the one that was before, which I think is probably a good thing. And if you have questions, remember you can always email me and ask questions along the way. Good luck. I'll wave to you by with the other hand, the one that's got the thing on it yet. But see, I can wiggle my fingers. That's a good sign. And we'll talk to you again next week.